Lisa in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Lisa, could it be any better for you? Fantastic backdrop. She loves to hike, loves to talk about monetary policy, and now monetary policy might have to consider the deficit. Lisa, does it get any better than that?
No, this is pretty awesome. And I have to say, you and Danny were talking about the difficulties of wildlife. And yesterday, our car got stuck because there was a herd of buffalo crossing the street, and I couldn't have been happier. But, John, this is a really notable moment because there is a difficult understanding of whether they've made progress or fallen further behind since the last FOMC meeting. A year ago, the Fed funds rate was at 4.5%. We were talking about how potentially there could be weakness in the labor market. The unemployment rate's gone from 4.3% to 4.1%. Inflation has gone from 2.9% to 3.3 or 3.4%, depending on which metric you look at. Either way, when you cut it, when you take a step back, they have gotten further away from their mandate. So yes, Fed Chair Kevin Warsh has a very difficult situation where he could just make things worse. But a lot of people feel like things have gotten worse since the last FOMC meeting. And when you take a look at a vacuum, they've gotten further away from their price stability goal at the same time that the employment mandate doesn't seem to be a problem. And this is the reason why you hear an increasing number of Fed officials coming out and saying, ultimately, this is a time where you have to think maybe we are accommodative rather than restrictive, and maybe we have to change that.
Lisa, they can make things worse. Can they make them better? How much influence do they have over the sources of inflation that we see and talk about every day?
That's the difficult aspect. How much control can raising rates have on lowering the price of oil without entirely torpedoing the economy in a punitive way? How much can they affect tariff rates? How much can they affect artificial intelligence spending after what we heard with all the forward orders for NVIDIA? It's unclear that they can. In fact, many people say it is not likely that they have any control whatsoever, which is the reason why, and I know that a lot of people are rolling their eyes every time they hear the word task force. I actually am interested in hearing how they measure inflation, how they measure employment, how they measure a very new economy to understand whether inflation's getting away from them. Just in a vacuum, looking at these numbers, you would say, yes, inflation's getting away from them. But then you layer on the war in Iran. Then you layer on tariffs. Then you layer on all of the AI spending and the robust capital markets. The only aspect they could influence would be the robust capital market side of things. So does torpedoing capital markets really get them anywhere when it comes to their dual mandate? Do they still have a dual mandate? I mean, it is a very difficult moment. Kevin Warsh might be taking this opportunity to say nothing, but if he says nothing, that too will be speaking volumes given how the bond market has moved. So right now, this is a momentous Jackson Hole, not only because it's beautiful and I love hiking and I love all of the animals that I should probably be scared of, but nonetheless, I do think that it is going to be a pivotal moment where they look forward and sort of redefine their role in a kind of muddled economy.
Lisa, though, is there any sense that this is a chair who wants to look backwards, that wants to take this to a pre-2008 type Jackson Hole where you just talk about big picture things moving forward, that it becomes more of an academic exercise, which has always been at the heart of Jackson Hole? Is there a risk that this is a Fed chair who tries to turn back time and have Jackson Hole look a bit more like it did in the past?
If he's doing that by virtue of the topic of this meeting, well, I don't think it's going to fly because they're going to be talking about stablecoin ostensibly at this meeting and some of the new financial innovations for payments. I don't think anyone in the hallways are talking about financial innovation when it comes to the payment system. They're talking about inflation. They're talking about potential political pressures. They're talking about a new Kevin Warsh. And they're talking about how to combat inflation in this very new way. That said, to your point, Danny, going back to an Alan Greenspan type of Federal Reserve that is sort of seems like one of the goals. And Alan Greenspan himself, that was the era when they established the 2% target for inflation. Do you revisit that? Do you start to pull back from that type of specific targeting is a really key question. And Danny, a lot of people would say, look, this is a neat way to politically extricate yourself away from the ire of President Trump. But a lot of people in markets are talking about how it actually is a good time to ask questions, like whether the Phillips curve still works, about what the goal of inflation targeting actually is, about how we measure things at a time where a lot of the surveys that we get on a regular basis are seeing the participation rate of those surveys go down. I mean, Jonathan Farrow still has not gotten a call from the University of Michigan when they ask how you feel and what you expect inflation to be. So it gives you a sense of just how small the sample size really is.
You know what, I tell them 25%. 25% over the next 3 years. That would be my call. That's what I'd say. If you, Mitch, ever called you, survey 500 people, 600 people.
Oh, you mean to completely, like, skew the sample size?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, not deliberately, Danny. That's just how I feel.
Of course, yeah.
Bramo, before you go, important question. I spoke to TK on the runway of LaGuardia yesterday. He was on the plane. I was a bit worried about him. The flight attendant was shouting at him to get off the phone, so he hung up pretty quickly. I haven't heard from him since. Did he make it okay?
He did. He actually stumbled in this morning, was hiding in the doorway to avoid getting in Michael McKee's shot. But he is here, and he is in rare form. He is very excited. I think that he was here last night having drinks with Catherine Mann and getting all sorts of inside intel. So you can look forward to hearing all about it.